dear listeners all around the world. I salute you all, especially those with keen interest in developing Africa. My name is Nathan Ntambi from Felina Management Consultants, the main sponsors of this program known as Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Development in Africa. This program is intended to motivate everyone on the African continent to be an entrepreneur in order for us to proactively and collectively address the sustainable development challenges that are uncompromisingly bedeviling Africa. I also propose possible solutions, how an entrepreneurship culture can be inculcated at all levels in our communities. Be an entrepreneur and make Africa great. In 2015, all the United Nations member states adopted a 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda with 17 Sustainable Development Goals, known as the SDGs, and 169 targets focused on ending poverty, protecting the planet, and ensuring prosperity for everyone by 2030. This 15-year ambitious agenda gave rise to goals that are integrated, indivisible, and balance the three dimensions of sustainable development, which are economic, social, and environmental. However, for success of the implementation of this agenda, governance, peace, justice, and security must prevail. The goals and targets have stimulated the action over the next 15 years from January 2016 in areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet. Because of their integrated nature, we can only have solutions in line with more than one dimension. This approach will be used as the basis for our engagement today. The social dimension. Our SDGs are covered in various dimensions, as already said, but SDG 1, no poverty; 2, no hunger; 3, good health and well-being at all ages; 4, education; and 5, gender equality are the ones under the social dimension. Africa must aggressively engage in entrepreneurship to achieve sustainable livelihoods. EGI, running programs like this one to motivate for entrepreneurship in all communities, starting businesses, small and big, with a very clear objective of making sure that they are sustainable, and therefore sustainable development, which addresses those three areas of social, economic, and environmental are addressed. We need to achieve food security and nutrition, make the basic services available and accessible. This means promoting sustainable agriculture to ensure sufficient and reliable food supply at all times. To have sufficient clean water supply. Public and private partnerships must come together in order to solicit funds to roll out water supply to both urban and rural areas. The same applies to having sufficient, reliable energy supply in both rural and urban areas. At the moment, many rural areas don't have these essential facilities, and therefore entrepreneurship cannot be fast to ensure that our sustainable development goals are achieved. We need to eradicate or fight diseases through health education, immunization, treatment. These are already happening, but how fast? How committed are we to making sure that this continues happening? Adopt safe and responsible behaviors to prevent spread of transmittable diseases. For instance, social distancing, as we have seen in COVID-19, safe sex in terms of HIV infections, and many more. We need to increase access to relevant quality education, training, and skill development. We have seen in some countries whereby different echelons, different grades of people do have different syllabuses, and therefore they train in specific areas while others are not having that opportunity. So quality education for all, not only privileged few. That is what we need to make sure that sustainable development occurs faster and actually we are able to achieve our SDGs. We need to correct gaps in legislation and policy which address discrimination. So many people are discriminated on very many grounds like income, gender, ethnicity, culture. We need to make sure that these come to an end so that we can be able to develop together with no one being disadvantaged. Economic dimension. This one is covered by economic growth, that is SDG 8. Then 9, infrastructure and innovation. 10, inequality. 12, consumption and production patterns. 17, partnerships. We need together, without surrender, review economic and social policies that drive work. We need to stimulate the economy through entrepreneurship. Any business that you start, you need to know that it's contributing to sustainable development. But for sustainable development to occur, those 3 areas of economic, social, and environmental must be put in mind so that we are able to have today and tomorrow in existence. We need to invest in infrastructure, roads, dams, hospitals, storage facilities. We need to accelerate informal settlement upgrading, and many more. We need to create and enhance innovation and communication technologies. We need to create a system where there is equality and inclusivity in all matters pertaining to decision making. We need to be more responsible and efficient in consumption of our resources by avoiding waste, avoiding overproduction, responsible disposal, recycling, and many other ways of making sure that our continent, our world, our globe remained sustainable. We have examples of decomposition time for various items like rubber. The rubber boot soles, decomposition time is 50 to 8 years. Leather shoes, 25 to 40 years. Batteries, 100 years. Sanitary pads, 500 to 800 years. Aluminium cans, 80 to 100 years. Now, recycling helps to continue using those items because they won't be thrown away. And therefore, by doing so, we are protecting our environment. Create and maintain a sustainable supply chain. Promote partnership between various governments, the public and private sector at all levels. Improve access to basic services. That one you have already touched. Then the environmental dimension. As you are going to realize, some of what I'm going to mention here as already mentioned in the dimension of economic and social, but they move together, they are integrated. SDG 6 talks about clean water and sanitation. 7, affordable and clean energy for all. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 13, climate change and its impacts. 14, marine resources. 15, land resources. We need to have good water quality. Yes, in other areas. In other dimensions, we talked about accessibility to water, but it must be of good quality. We need to have a clean environment to prevent transmittable diseases. It has also been touched under the economic environment or economic dimension. Adequate water supply, good quality and adequate water supply. Why do we bring this under environmental? In some cases, we find that the water is damaged or spoiled or non-suitable for consumption because of oil spillage and any other mineral waste or mineral absorption. So we need to make sure that the environment is protected in this manner as well. And then sustainable development will occur because we shall be having good quality water which does not affect the livelihoods, and therefore even nature, like fish, may die because of spillages. Improving resource utilization. Suitable energy supply, that is energy that is environment friendly. For instance, energy that does not cause damage to the ozone layer, energy that is recyclable. We need to reduce pollution. We need to promote consumption of non-polluting products. We need to reverse the effects of climate change, for instance, by afforestation. We need to ensure that all marine resources and resources from land are sustainably utilized. What do we mean here? Like what we have mentioned, if oil spillage goes into the sea, the marine is going to be affected. Some of the fish is going to die. And that is not a desirable situation. We need to avoid that. So we need to ensure that all those resources, marine and land, are well and sustainably utilized. Ecosystems and biodiversity planning. We need to plan on how to reserve our ecosystem and our biodiversity. We need to combat other situations that cause our globe, our planet, to disintegrate or to degenerate. One of them being combating desertification. On the terms of governance, peace and security dimension, this is addressed by SDG 16, which is justice, accountability, and inclusivity. We need to have access. Everybody should have access to justice. We need to have strong institutions for accountability and inclusivity. We need to promote effective governance, robust leadership, and a participative citizenry. We need to strengthen mechanisms to prevent illicit financial flows. And we need to combat corruption and bribery and promote and protect the right of public access to information. In addition to all the above information that I've been talking about, this is very, very crucial and must be given the attention it deserves. The leaders of our beloved continent are letting us down. They must consider and implement the following for entrepreneurship to gain and maintain momentum across the continent. Silence the gun. Entrepreneurship cannot occur effectively in an unstable environment. People cannot work the land while their safety is unsecured. A lot of money, resources are being misused by financing wars, conflicts, and many other irrelevant things. Factories can operate only if employees are not on the run. There are many examples we can recite here in Africa where sustainable development is still failing because of the leaders, because of the politicians. Libya, Egypt, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and many other countries on our planet. Why don't we have other ways of resolving conflict instead of using the gun to resolve our problems? One currency. Trade between all African countries will be easier. Development will be quicker. And if an individual is to move from one country to another, or in 5 different countries or neighboring countries, he must exchange 5 or 6 times the currency. Why? There is a finance cost as well for exchanging currencies and time delays. So having one currency will eliminate all those problems. One country. Why do you have borders? This continent is Africa. It's a country. God created us to be together. Why do we keep dividing ourselves? Or why do we allow to be divided by external forces? We need one country. There will be free and faster movement of goods, services, and people. And according to the African Union Agenda for 2063, infrastructure like railways, roads, bridges, and many other infrastructure are going to be interconnected. Now, why? The borders. So, for that to happen, effective communication, effective and reliable transport system, we don't need borders. Yes, they can be there for administrative purposes, but they are reducing our pace of achieving sustainable development. One language. Communication amongst the African population will be improved, since not everyone understands English or is able to communicate in English or other people's language. So if you have one language, you go to Mali to do business, you speak the language they understand. You go to Sudan, you speak the language they understand. So communication becomes very easy, and therefore entrepreneurship becomes easier. Therefore, sustainable development will be faster. One army. Wars between African countries will no longer be happening and won't be necessary. We are going to have other alternatives of resolving conflicts than wars. So why do you have so many armies? The army is to protect Africa. It should be there to protect Africa, but not to resolve petty conflicts amongst African countries. That has to stop. Africa will probably be having the strongest army in the world. So our coming together will help us to achieve sustainable development much faster. A common African market, where the prices of African commodities for export to non-African countries are determined. What do we mean here? If we all have coffee, for instance, on the African market, all other countries that want to buy coffee will use that market, will access that market through a bargaining approach, not going to individual countries and then exploit them by buying at very low prices. The African market will help us to control and manage our products that we produce, both individually and continentally. So, if these contentious issues are addressed, all human beings will enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives. Societies will be peaceful, just and inclusive, free from fear and violence. Economic, social, and technological progress will occur in harmony with nature. The planet will be protected from degradation, thereby supporting the needs of the present and the future generations. Africa's natural resources will be exploited responsibly and sustainably. The above dimensions can then be split into smart objectives that can be used to measure and compare the achievements against the predetermined objectives by an entity, be it a government, a company, or profit or non-profit organization. This will make sure that no one is left behind. In other words, let us look at the economic issues, let us look at the social issues, let us look at the environmental issues, and put measures, set targets. As from today, we had targets. Many countries, I believe, had targets in 2016, when the agenda started. But those were, how far have you reached? Do the people know? Does the common man know how your country has been able to achieve those sustainable development goals? Do they even know what are the targets? Because you had 169 targets. Which ones are the targets for Uganda? Which one are the targets for South Africa? Which ones are the targets for Zambia and many other countries? Did they set targets, those United Nations states? If yes, how far have those targets been achieved? Are we winning or losing? At the moment, very few people, including me, don't know that information, don't have that information. So that information is important for us to make sure that sustainable development occurs in harmony and where everybody is fully involved. You cannot be pretending to be fully involved when you don't have predefined objectives, you don't have any targets, you're just working. In addition, these sustainable development goals are built on what is commonly referred to as the 5 pillars, the 5 Ps, which summarize the commitments made by the United Nations states in 2015 for the 2030 SDG agenda. Every African is encouraged to commit to the achievement of these 5 Ps in order to make Africa a developed and admirable nation or continent to live in, both in terms of social, economic, environmental, and political or governance situations. So the 5 pillars are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. People, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. Regarding people, we must end poverty and hunger, finish and clear, in all their forms and dimensions, and ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality and in a healthy environment. As for the planet, we must protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production, sustainably managing its natural resources, and taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support the needs of the present and future generations. We must ensure that all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, and that economic, social, and technological progress occurs in harmony with nature. We must foster peaceful, just, and inclusive societies that are free from fear and violence. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. We must mobilize the means required to implement this agenda through a revitalized global partnership or continental partnership, in our case, for sustainable development based on a spirit of strengthened global solidarity, and in our case, strengthened continental solidarity, focused in particular on the needs of the poorest and the most vulnerable, and with the participation of all countries, all stakeholders, and all people. Africa has achieved to date in some areas. Within the past generation, millions of people have emerged from extreme poverty, but many more still need to go out of that extreme poverty. Access to education has increased. Infrastructure has significantly improved in some countries. The spread of information and communication technology and intercontinental connectedness has greatly accelerated human progress. bridged the digital divide, developed knowledge societies, and improved scientific and technological innovation across areas as diverse as medicine and energy. This is a message from FENLINA. FENLINA encourages all African countries and their partners to work together in an unprecedented entrepreneurial manner to ensure that these goals are achieved by the end of 2030 and that no one is left behind. Be an entrepreneur and make Africa great. For more information, I can be contacted at +27 071 543 2931 or +27 078 939 6439. Thank you.